Hi, and welcome to Leadership Untitled with Karen Turner. That is me. I help leaders build influence and scale their businesses. Let me tell you, adding that last part, businesses, I usually want to say I help leaders build influences. And so I have to kind of slow down in my mind to make sure that I am saying the phrase correctly. So I help leaders build influence and scale their businesses. This is episode 23. Welcome to this week's episode. We are talking about a beloved topic of networking, and I'm sharing one of my secrets, or maybe perhaps how I overcame my negative mindset around networking by focusing on the power of one. This week, I am in the middle of a certification. It's a virtual certification to recertify as a high performance coach. High performance coaching is the framework that I use in my coaching practice, and I obtain it through the High Performance Institute. I have shared in previous podcast episodes, which should be no surprise to those of you who are listening, how often I reference past episodes. But I have shared in previous episodes why this framework resonated with me, how it has helped me in my career, in my personal life, how it has helped my clients make significant progress in their personal life as well as their careers as leaders. And so please feel free to go back and to watch or listen to those episodes. And I also share and give a little bit of a sneak peek into those episodes as well. A very experienced podcaster would have those episode numbers available for you, but I do not. I think this is the second week in a row. I could try to quickly look for them, but I'm not going to distract myself. But go ahead, take a look. I know they were around the New Year's. I did a part one and a part two series on how to prepare effectively for entering into the new year, which is 2022. So that those are the two episodes. It's a part one and a part two. I'm enjoying the conference because I love learning. And even though the recertification process remains basically the same in terms of the structure, every single time I learn something new. I get a new aha moment. I get an opportunity to we role play as part of the recertification process. So I get a chance to further hone my skill so that I can be of greater service to my clients. The part that I don't look forward to that sometimes brings me dread is the thought of meeting new people. And I know that's so weird because I put myself out on social media all the time. And I want to be clear, I enjoy meeting new people. I enjoy having great conversations, but there is a part of me that dreads the process of networking. You know, when you hear meeting new people and you hear conference, it's often synonymous with networking. And I know that I can't be alone. I know that I'm not alone in terms of how people feel about networking and the process of networking. And it has usually been or was my practice in the past to, especially for in-person events, to opt out of anything that said networking. If it actually had networking event or networking cocktail affair or party or meetup, I would cross that off my list, wasn't attending it. If there was anything that smelled like it might be about networking, it was a very quick no for me, and I'm just heading back or staying in my hotel room if I was traveling. As I was preparing the notes for our conversation today, I remembered a trip that I went to in Denver. I was living in Arizona at the time, so traveled to Denver for the food and nutrition conference and expo that was happening. I think it was 2009, 2010. I'm a registered dietitian by trade, for those of you who don't know. These conferences are always fun from the expo perspective and all of the free swag that you get, the new products that you get to try. And then the conference sessions themselves were always informative. So I looked forward to almost every aspect of this event except for the networking part of it. And so I, through the years and just in my work and in attending other conferences, had definitely built up a group of friends who I knew I would get to see, friends and colleagues who I would get to see at these conferences. And that's what happened. I met up with some friends, and in my mind, I had already created my agenda for the 2 or 3 days of the conference and knew what I was going to attend, and more importantly, knew what I was not going to attend. Well, one of my friends, colleagues said, "Nope, you're coming with to this event in the evening. Definitely networking." I agreed to it that morning with her, fully knowing that my agreement was just to get out of the conversation. It was expedient in the moment, but I knew that before the event in the afternoon, I was going to graciously decline. I was going to say I didn't feel well. I was working through all of the different reasons why I would give, but I knew as I was saying yes to her that I would not be actually attending what I had agreed to. Well, she got the better of me. I don't know if she knew me knew me that well and knew what was coming, or if it was just a coincidence, but I did get a text message saying that she was in the lobby earlier than we had agreed upon. She had finished what she needed to do, so she was in the lobby of my hotel and said, "Why don't we grab something to eat beforehand?" I had not had a chance to graciously excuse myself, so I found myself downstairs, certainly enjoyed our one-on-one conversation and the early dinner that we grabbed, and then we headed to this networking event. I know you're probably thinking I'm going to tell you that this event changed my mind about networking. I had a complete mindset shift. I had an incredible time. I met the person who was going to change my life. That is not the case. I had a miserable time. And I know part of that is because I went into it with a horrible mindset already, but I did not have a good time. And my friend, who is very gracious, incredibly talented, brilliant, well connected in the food and nutrition space, she was out there living her best life. And I wanted to be more like her, but just didn't have the energy to do it. And so I did eventually say, "Hey, looks like you've connected with another group of friends." And she was including me. I don't want to make it sound like she wasn't including me. She was including me in the conversation. I just didn't want to be included. So once I knew she was connected with another group of people, I exited and found my way back to my hotel, which was the original plan all of the time. I have heard conversations. I know I'm not alone in having a story like this. I have heard conversations, I've had these conversations, and I know that I am not alone in these experiences around networking events. And I realize that a lot of it is that pressure that comes with we're going to a networking event. So our goal is to meet as many people as possible to get a league of names, a bunch of business cards, um, potentially connect with someone who could give us a new job opportunity, striking deals. It's this, it seems like a back room kind of shuffle that so many of us feel like we're just not prepared for, or it doesn't resonate with us. It doesn't strike a chord with us. It doesn't feel genuine. And it feels somewhat manufactured. The conversations we recognize are often manufactured. And who wants to enter into that kind of environment, you know? So I would absolutely not want to attend networking events. But then once I went back to my hotel room or home, wherever it was, once I left early, I would feel the guilt that perhaps me not attending was missing an opportunity of a lifetime, that I wasn't going to meet that one person who, in connecting with them, would change my life. And so it's this awkward balance of not wanting to go, but feeling guilty about not going, fear of missing out, but not really having that fear of missing out. Again, I know I'm not alone. It's a dichotomy that for me there was more benefit in not attending and being okay with what I was possibly missing out. And normally, as we move deeper into this conversation, normally when we talk about networking, it's often couched in a conversation about introverts and extroverts. I just, I won't be doing that, not at least very deeply. Just because I feel like the introvert extrovert conversation has shifted so much, and those definitions of who is an introvert, who is an extrovert have changed, have morphed, have become so nuanced that the label of introvert or extrovert may not apply. Because I've had conversations with people who are classic extroverts who don't enjoy networking events, who would prefer to opt out and do something else. So I don't know if it's necessarily helpful for this conversation. I do consider myself a classic introvert, in terms of I need to step away from a crowd in order to regain my energy from that perspective. But at the same time, once my mindset shifted about networking and I began to look forward to it, um, I actually would, as I said, look forward to the connections and the conversations that I knew were going to happen. And I would often leave networking events feeling more energized, feeling more hopeful than when I had come in. And so, even though as a classic introvert, that's supposed to be the opposite, I actually left events when I focused on the power of one, which I'm going to share with you. But when I focused on the power of one, I left networking events again more energized, more hopeful, more inspired. I actually gained more energy from speaking with people and getting to know people and having deep conversations with them. So, first and foremost, I want to honor your choice. Okay. As a coach, my job is definitely to help move my clients out of their comfort zones. I want to be sure that I challenge you and challenge your mindsets, your perceptions about the world, about your reality, so that you are making progress, consistent progress towards your goals. But I also understand that sometimes you may not be ready. My clients may not be ready to make those steps. And so if you are in a space where you're just like, no thanks, I choose to opt out of networking events. Networking is not for me. That's okay. That is your choice and I honor that choice. Also, too, I want to say, especially around conferences and around continuing education events or sessions, I feel that the focus is so much on networking that we forget the beauty of why we're attending, or part of the beauty of why we're attending this continuing education opportunity for the learning. And if that is the only, and I'm doing air quotes for those of you who are listening in, if that is the only reason why you're attending, that's an incredible reason, because you are expanding your mind, you're giving yourself an opportunity to even challenge your perceptions of reality through the things that you learn. So if that's the outcome, if that's the goal of you attending, the conference, the education event, whatever it is, that is a valid goal and that should be celebrated. So it's okay if that is your only goal. And that was the way I was for a very long time. I'm okay with going to the conference. If I happen to meet someone as I'm sitting in the conference room, great. But I am here to learn, and that was my focus. And it still is my focus now, but I have understood and began to understand the power of a deeper connection. So if you're ready to learn about the power of one, that's what we're doing. My thoughts on networking began to shift, and it was a rapid shift when I started speaking at events and at conferences. Whether it was the lanyard that I was assigned that said I was a speaker, and so that attracted people to come and talk to me and ask me questions, or if it was after I had spoke and people were waiting to share their thoughts on what I had shared from the stage, how it had impacted them, or just sharing their life experience. I was very rapidly pushed from feeling like I don't want to network to being plunged into networking. It was a force. But here's what happened. In those 2 or 3 minutes or 5 minute conversations, they weren't really long or deep, but they were intense. Getting to learn about someone and them sharing their life experiences, how they got to the place to be speaking where we were speaking with each other, any aha moments that they happened to get from what I shared, those were incredibly powerful, energizing conversations. And at the time, I didn't actually attach the word networking to them. I just was connecting and I wanted to learn more. I looked forward to those conversations. And when I wasn't speaking and was an attendee or just attending an event, I would seek and actively seek out having similar conversations, looking for one or two people to connect with on a deeper level. Last year, I was having a conversation with a colleague as more in person events were starting to pop back up again. And we were talking about networking. And I asked him, I was like, what are your tips for networking? I am networking adverse. And that's how I felt even last year. I'm networking adverse. And so he shared his strategy. And as he was talking, he was saying that he also used to be that way, but found that when he focused on making a deep connection with just one or two people, that helped him overcome any fear or negativity around networking. And I was like, "Oh, that's exactly what I have been doing." But I hadn't equated it or labeled it networking. Because for me, it was that pressure, again, that I talked about at the beginning of the podcast, that pressure to meet as many people as possible. But then there was the other side of networking that I associated with kind of that slick in person, slide into your DM kind of feeling, like when you see a message pop up in your direct messages and you go in anticipating that it's someone that you know or someone looking for connection with you. And instead, it's someone who has crafted a cold message that doesn't resonate at all. And you're like, "Ugh." But having that happen over and over again in person, I know you know what I'm talking about. Or in the virtual world, the virtual event world where they're actually sliding into your DMs with those cold messages. That's how I viewed networking. It's the glance at your lanyard again in person, glance at your lanyard to see your title, to see if you're worth speaking to. Of course, there's a whole conversation around bias and whether or not the way you look, how you present yourself on the outside, and how people perceive you, and the people who choose to speak with you or choose not to speak with you. That's a whole other conversation. But that makes, for me, in the past, that has made networking events extremely uncomfortable It is the quick bait and switch where you're having what seems like a good conversation with someone, but then you can see their eyes wandering and looking at the room to see who else they could be talking to. It is the credit card, it's the business card switch that happens. Just here's my business card, here's my business card, here's my business card, without acknowledging or seeing the name. Can I get yours? Can I get yours? Where it's who has the biggest stack of business cards at the end of the night. And it is just that it's the awkward conversation that happens or that doesn't happen. The unspoken conversations where you can see that someone is rejecting you with just their eyes. It is the not just the stack of business cards at the end of the night, it is the how many likes did I get? How many followers did I get from this event? How many LinkedIn connections did I get? But it's all manufactured and it feels hollow. And I think for so many of us, even those who identify as extroverts, no one likes to be at or feel that hollowness, that emptiness, or that what can you do for me? What can I do for you feeling? And that's what I associated with networking. And so, what had developed in the background, where I looked forward to creating those deeper connections with one or two people, I looked forward to that. But I had never put the word networking to it. It was creating connections, it was creating friendships. I've created some incredible friendships, ongoing friendships for years now once I switched my mindset and focused on connecting, but I never associated it with networking. But that's exactly what it is. It's increasing your network. It's growing the network of people who you know. And so I had my aha moment last year with understanding, oh, the very thing that I felt like I was avoiding was the very thing that I was doing, but I was doing it in a way that was authentic to me. And that's probably a really good word, is that so many of us want to have, especially after these past 2 years, we want to hold on to authentic connections. We want to be in authentic situations. We want to be and feel that we are being genuine and not just put into a conveyor belt of, okay, let's just switch these things really quickly. We're just gathering information, but I don't really want to get to know you, get to know what you do, get to know who you are. That doesn't even sound fun as I'm describing it, but that is what so many networking events or networking conversations can feel like. But I want to encourage you, they don't have to feel that way. Focusing on the power of one combined with leading with curiosity. That's what makes the conversations that I have for me so powerful, is that I lead with curiosity. And oftentimes I have to watch myself because I will pepper people with questions because I just want to learn. But sometimes that can be a little awkward. So I have to be careful how much I'm digging into someone's life. But it's just that I want to know more about who you are. I want to know more about how you and I ended up coming to have a conversation. I want to know about your life experiences and how you have come to the thoughts that you have, especially around the conference or the event that we're attending. And that often is one person, maybe two or three, when you're having those deep conversations. They can absolutely happen in that 5 minute or 2 minutes. But when you're at, an event that's intended for networking, oftentimes I'm connecting with one or two people only. And I'm okay with that. Or at a conference, I'll connect with three or four people over the entire week. But let me tell you, well, actually, I do have let me tell you, in 2018, when I first became a high performance coach, I connected out of a group of maybe 300-ish people who were attending that certification. I connected with four women, four incredible women. I have remained very close with two of those four. since then and have remained in contact with the other two, just not as closely. But out of the 300 people, to say that over the course of the week, I connected deeply with those four women, and that's who I chose to stay connected to and build relationship with over the course of 5 days. But that has led to an incredible friendship with um, where we're sharing so much more beyond what it started off as, where we stayed in contact to continue to hone our coaching skills. We're now in moments of joy and moments of sadness, whatever, they're some of the first people I think to call. And that's powerful for me. And it's powerful for them as they have shared as well. So I'm okay saying at this event, I want to connect deeply with one or two people. And that's how I'm showing up authentically, leading with curiosity and creating that meaningful connection. So, as I started the podcast with, I still have those feelings of, "Oh, okay, we're doing this. We're going into a conference, even though it's virtual and I'm going to be meeting new people." I am not 100% always making a beeline, ready to attend the networking events, ready to meet a whole bunch of new people. That's not always me. I do still have to work on my mindset and say, Karen, remember the opportunity that lies in potentially meeting someone. I also don't put any pressure on myself to have that deep connection because it may not happen. I may, in this week that I'm in right now, I may not connect with anyone in a meaningful way where we're going to continue a conversation or continue build a relationship beyond this 3 or 4 day certification event, and that's okay. I don't put pressure on myself to have that a significant number of increase in my likes and my LinkedIn connections and the virtual business cards, and that's okay. It doesn't mean that I didn't have, that sounds odd, that I didn't have a great time. It doesn't mean that I didn't enjoy the conversations that I had, but I just don't put pressure on myself around networking, around making connections. And when you lead with curiosity, my last note, when you lead with curiosity, it may mean that you sometimes don't get a word in, and that's okay. Because these conversations are not always about what can you do for me? What can I do for you? Again, they're about learning and building, again, that meaningful, authentic connection and starting to build towards what could end up being a really great partnership, a really great collaboration down the line. You never know, but it doesn't start off from a place of, what can you do for me? What can I do for you? It starts from a place of curiosity and focusing and harnessing that power of one. You may need to sift through a lot of people at a networking event or at a conference in order to find that one or maybe two, that one person or maybe two people who you create that connection with. But I will guarantee you 99% of the time, you will find that person. And if not, that is okay. The 1% of the time that it happens, that it doesn't happen, that is okay. Because you'll still have enjoyed having an opportunity to meet people and not feeling like this person could be the person who changes my life. This person is someone who could get me a connection to someone who could grow my business or who could, give me a job opportunity or again, that what can you do for me? Transactional relationship. If you're going in wanting to learn, not all the conversations will end up in the way that I've described, but certainly you won't have that feeling, that hollow feeling, that empty feeling if you're the one who leads the conversation. Person might leave, you might choose to end the conversation early, but you are in control. You're in control of your actions, you're in control of your mindset. And I know that as you focus on harnessing that power of one, that you will begin to enjoy networking and building new connections. That's it for episode 23. If you enjoyed it, which I know that you did. Please share this episode so that we can continue building our community of influential leaders. And if you are listening to this, wherever you are listening to it, please feel free to rate, leave comments, subscribe if applicable. I will see you next week for episode 24. Bye.